Shalom everyone, how are you? Matsuyu here. It's been a long time since my last post, a little bit longer than I would have desired, but here I am back with you. And so I'm hoping that this installment will be something that will raise your antennas and give you some very important information that you need to understand. Um, it's going to be a little bit long. It's going to be in two parts, but I hope that you'll be able to stick with me and try to understand why this particular installment is so important. So, as you can see by the title, this installment is called the Terminator Seed. So, what we're going to do first is that we're going to look at Monsanto. We're going to look at the Monsanto history and timeline, right? Many of you have heard of Monsanto, but may not really understand the depth and the reach and the power of this company upon the earth when it comes to seeds and a host of other things that we'll get into at a later time, where they have reach and where they involve that impact everyone's life in a very dramatic way. So, 1901, pharmaceutical company agent John F. Queeny launches Monsanto to produce saccharin, an artificial sweetener then only manufactured in Germany. So many of you have heard of saccharin. Remember those little pink packets back in the 90s, and it's been marketed under various names. Save you calories, enjoy it, it's great for you. Would never have thought that this thing began to be pushed way back in 1901, right? Well over 100 years ago. 1907, the USDA investigates whether replacing saccharin with sugar violates the Pure Food and Drug Act, a consumer protection law. President Theodore Roosevelt, a saccharin consumer, objects to the investigation. So we see here powerful people in high places. In 1911, the USDA proclaims foods with saccharin adulterated, thus banning it except for use by medical patients who must avoid sugar. Why? Because why would medical patients who must avoid sugar not use saccharin? Because saccharin is actually about 10 to 15 times sweeter than sugar. But we'll get into that another time. 1914. World War I starts and sugar shortages prompt the government to lift saccharin restrictions. Of course, this is extremely convenient. In 1915, with caffeine and vanillin added to Monsanto's product line and Coca-Cola as a chief consumer, sales reach $1 million. Of course, in that time, that is a tremendous amount of money. 1917, Monsanto begins producing aspirin, becoming the top producer in the U.S., a title it held until the 1980s. 1928, Queeny passes on the company to his son, Edgar M. Queeny. Monsanto flourishes under the protection of high U.S. tariffs. So once again, we see here, powerful people in high places is helping the company to expand its reach quite early. 1933, expanding the company, renames itself the Monsanto Chemical Company. One of its products, styrene, will become critical to the U.S. during World War II. I'm sure many of you have heard of styrene, and we're going to look into it a bit later down the road in the next installment. 1964. The variety of product offerings prompts the group to rebrand as the Monsanto Company. Excuse me. 1964 to 1969. As a government contractor, Monsanto manufactures Ancient Orange, a highly toxic herbicide used by the U.S. military during the Vietnam War to clear jungles and starve North Vietnamese soldiers. Now, if many of you have seen a lot of these war films or even do some research on Agent Orange, you'll see it was an insidious chemical. Even till this day in Vietnam, there are still people that are born with many birth defects because of Agent Orange. There's still Vietnam veterans um, in the U.S. that are still suffering from the effects of Agent Orange, as well as their offspring suffering from the effect of Agent Orange. 1974, the company introduces Roundup herbicide, now among the world's most widely used herbicides. If you were to look at some of my previous installments, you would have been able to see I spoke quite a bit about Roundup, which we're going to get into again in great detail a little bit down the road when we look at certain chemicals and break them down. The um, most important, of course, being derivatives of Roundup. 1982, Monsanto's scientists are the first to genetically modify a plant cell. Later, the company acquires the Jacob Hart's Seed Company, which is known for its soybean seed. Now, soybeans are probably one of the largest genetically modified and genetically engineered crops in the world. I believe that Canada, for those of you that reside there, is one of the largest producers of genetically modified or genetically engineered varieties of soybean, right? The soybean on a whole, of course, oils or anything related to it, one of the worst things that you can consume and put into your body. 1984. We're now back to Agent Orange. We see that Vietnam veterans settle a lawsuit with Monsanto for its role in exposing troops to Agent Orange, receiving a payout of $180 million, but the company doesn't admit to liability. According to the Vietnamese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the U.S. military exposed 4.8 million people to the herbicide, causing 400,000 deaths and disfigurements and birth defects in 500,000 babies. Now keep in mind, this is supposed to be a seed company, i.e. a food company. And here they are involved in producing an herbicide, which is so insidious that it not only did it kill large amounts of people, but is still causing birth defects even till this day as we speak. So that should tell you something about how they view the food or whatever else that they're going to produce that you're going to consume. 1985, Monsanto buys pharmaceutical firm G.D. Searle and Company, maker of NutraSweet artificial sweetener. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with NutraSweet and may even have used NutraSweet. Again, it's an artificial sweetener, a chemical product, something that the body cannot properly metabolize. And we're going to get into these things a little bit later down the road. 1994, Monsanto begins commercial production of BST, bovine somatotropin, a synthetic supplement for dairy cows. Now, what does this do? Also known as RSBT, right, or RBST. What this does is that it stimulates it overstimulates the production of milk in dairy cows for, of course, commercial production. So if you have ever seen cows that are used in the commercial production of milk, you'll see that the teats are extremely swollen under the cow. Now, if you grew up milking cows as a young boy like I did, you know that does not happen. So why do you have this swelling? Because when you've got that overproduction of milk and the over, really caused by the RBST or the BST, is that sac is actually filled with bacteria, and that's what causes that expansion as well as overstimulation. And again, we will get into, and I've already spoken about in previous slides, about BST, and we're going to take a look at that again. So we see this is introduced into the general milk production. It's still used in milk production today, and if you read some labels, it will say to you, this product produced from milk that does not use RSBT or BST and there's another name for it these days in our cows, but it also will follow with another note that says um, nothing has proven or shown that milk produced with or without BST or RBST is any different from the others. So they throw that disclaimer in there. 1996. It introduces Roundup Ready seeds, which Monsanto genetically engineered to tolerate its Roundup herbicide. Roundup Ready soybeans, corn, cotton, and other crops have since dominated every market in which they're sold. The company also signs contracts to license corn and soybean seeds from DeKalb Genetics and buys the cotton and biotech company Agricitas. Now let's look at how Roundup Ready seeds work, right? So they're genetically engineered to tolerate its Roundup herbicide, right? So let's define first what the herbicides and pesticides are. So herbicides are for weeds, and pesticides are for insects that eat away at plants. Now, what I will tell you, which we'll touch on again a little bit later, is that whenever Roundup is used in soil, it also genetically modifies the soil composition itself, right? So therefore, when you go and you buy any seed that is not a Roundup Ready seed, it will not grow in that soil. Okay? All right. 1999. Under the leadership of lawyer and former urban affairs professor Robert Shapiro, former head of NutraSweet operations, the company spins off its chemical operations. Monsanto then commits to biotechnology with the official goal of helping people lead longer, healthier lives at costs that they and their nations can afford and without continued environmental degradation. Wow, it sounds so great. It's always what happens with these companies. They know what is best, and they're seeking to extend your life and at the same time protect the environment. But remember Agent Orange. And by the way, it says here, under the leadership of lawyer and former urban affairs professor Robert Shapiro. This is the same Robert Shapiro of O.J. Simpson fame. He was one of the lawyers that defended O.J. Simpson when he was accused of, murdering his wife and the other fellow. 1999. After an $8 billion licensing and buying spree, Monsanto becomes the foremost producer of genetically modified crops. 2002. Monsanto becomes a publicly traded company. 2010. After a devastating earthquake, Haitian farmers reject GMO seeds donated by Monsanto. The National Peasant Movement of the Congress of Pepe calls the company's charity a very strong attack on small agriculture of farmers, on Creole seeds, and on what is left of our environment in Haiti. So we see here, out of crisis is opportunity. So the earthquake hits and they come in to try to introduce their seeds into the environment. Now keep in mind, the moment you take that seed is licensed to them, and you cannot do anything with that seed without their permission, or you're in deep trouble, right? But moreover, it just destroys the environment and pretty much destroys the ability of anything else to grow. 2011, the Public Patent Foundation, which consists of 60 farmers, seed businesses, and organic agricultural organizations, files a lawsuit challenging Monsanto's patents on genetically modified seed. In 2011, September of 2011, Monsanto collects $85,000 from Vernon Bowman, an Indiana soy farmer, for patent infringement. Now imagine this. This is the largest producer of genetically modified seeds in the world. It's now one of the largest companies of its kind. And they took a man and sued him to collect $85,000 for what they said was patent infringement. Now, how easy it is for you to be charged with patent infringement from Monsanto. But look at it this way: if farmer Joe next to you is growing his Roundup Ready seeds or whatever genetically modified seeds from Monsanto, and that plant or somehow uh, any of what is grown on that farm is migrated by the wind or anything onto your farm down the road, and you grow that crop and you sell it, you have committed patent infringement on Monsanto. 2012, a highly contested study finds that Roundup herbicide and genetically modified maize cause tumors and organ damage in rats. October 2012, a television spot opposing Proposition 37, California's genetically engineered food labeling initiative, is pulled. It features a research fellow from a conservative think tank, posing as a Stanford University professor and a founding director of the FDA Office of Technology. In November 2012, Proposition 37 is defeated in California. April 2013. Now, here's a very important thing to see. President Obama signs the Monsanto Protection Act, which requires the USDA to approve genetically modified crops, even if courts have ruled against them, right? So one of the things we have and we see here, and as I often say, we need to pay attention to the smoke, is that we have, a lot of people screaming at the current president. I really don't, I'll keep that view out of it. But their memories are short, and many times they have no clue what is going on in government. And this act, signed in 2013 of April 2013 by Obama, was probably one of the worst things that atrocities perpetrated upon the farmer and upon the ability to control seed, the natural seed in the United States and beyond. May 2013, 9 Supreme Court justices award a patent case to Monsanto against Indiana soybean farmer Vernon Bowman, ruling that patent exhaustion doesn't apply to Roundup Ready soybean seeds. According to the New York Times, the ruling has implications for many aspects of modern agriculture and for businesses based on vaccines, cell lines, and software. Later, Zombie Wheat reports in Oregon prompt Monsanto to issue a "We're here to help" statement. We're going to get back to this May 2013 ruling in the next installment. June 2013, Connecticut passes the nation's first GMO labeling law. 3 weeks later, Monsanto EVP and Chief Technology Officer Robert T. Fraley wins the World Food Prize. Imagine that, the Nobel Prize for Food. Along with 2 other scientists who work on GMOs, the company is one of the award's biggest donors. Okay, so before we move on to the next part of the presentation, I'm just going to give a general overview of the Terminator seed, or the Terminator process, and how, just an overview before I walk it out and explain it. But we're going to use cotton, because cotton, the Terminator cotton seed, is something that Monsanto tried to push into Kebulon, aka Africa, some years ago, but it was eventually rejected. So the goal here was for them to develop a variety of cotton that will grow normally until the crop is almost mature. Then and only then, a toxin will be produced in the seed, right, or the embryos, specifically killing the entire next generation of seeds, right? So the system has 3 components. The first one is a gene for a toxin that will kill the seed late in the development. but that will not kill any other part of the plant. The second part is a method for allowing a plant to grow, for a plant breeder rather, to grow several generations of the cotton plants, which are already genetically engineered to contain the seed-specific toxin gene without any seeds dying. This is required to produce enough seeds to sell for farmers to plant. And then the third part is going to be a method for activating and engineering seed-specific toxin gene. That's going to be after the farmer plants the seeds, so that the farmer's second generation will be killed off. Right? Those three tasks are going to be accomplished by engineering a series of genes, which are all going to be transferred permanently to the plant. In this way, those genes are going to be passed on via the normal production of the plant in perpetuity. Okay, so this will end this part of the presentation, just giving you a quick overview, and I'll see you on the next one within the next day or so, which will bring part 2. Okay, Salema. Also, if you've made it this far in this presentation, please subscribe and share. Give a thumbs up if you feel it needs one, and hit the notification bell for the next presentation. In doing all of this, you will engage the YouTube algorithm to be able to push this out more to others, that they can get this very important information.